Okay.
Okay, if Becky and Kurt are ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
We're ready.
Okay, very good. Good evening, everybody. My name is Luke Mortensen, and I'll be filling in tonight for Catherine as the staff liaison to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Our planning manager, Becky Pepper, will be in the room with you to help facilitate the Zoom portion of tonight's meeting. Please silence your cell phones to minimize distractions during the meeting. When the chair calls for public comment, this is for folks in the room, please approach the podium to indicate your wish to speak. Virtual participants, if there are any, should use the raise hand function to indicate they wish to speak during public comment. Once your name is called, please unmute and turn your camera on to provide your comments. Please state your name and zip code before speaking. The city reserves the right to turn off videos or mute participants. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The primary format for accessing and participating in this meeting is in person at City Hall. Virtual access to view or participate in the meeting cannot be guaranteed. The chat function will not be monitored. With that, I will pause and take attendance to determine if we've got a quorum tonight. So just a bit of info about tonight's meeting. We will be having you guys gavel in first as the Board of Zoning Appeals to take care of some kind of minor housekeeping minutes review. And then we'll have you gavel out of that, and then gavel back in as the signed code Board of Appeals. Your regular agenda item tonight is a signed code item. So with that, I will call roll. Let me grab my pen here. Okay, Board Member Shinuda.
Present.
Board Member Palos.
Here.
Board Member Sinkler. Here. Board Member Watkins.
Here.
Board Member Peterson. Board Member Rankin. Board Member Shalinsky. Okay, Chair, we have quorum, and I'll just also note that our Vice Chair will be acting as our Chair tonight as well.
All right, thanks, Lucas. Thank you all for being here. Let's get to item B, acknowledgement of communications to come before the board. Anything to note there? No. Okay.
Yeah, and no, nothing has come before the board. If there were written communications received before the written communication deadline, those will be included in tonight's agenda packet.
Okay. And then disclosure of ex parte communications, anything to disclose or abstentions for specific agenda items?
No.
Okay. Any announcements of any agenda items that will be deferred?
There was one previously scheduled Board of Zoning Appeals item for tonight. It was deferred at the applicant's request prior to agenda publication, so we were able to pull it off the agenda tonight.
Okay. We'll move on to agenda item C. This is to consider approval of the minutes from April 3rd, 2025 and March 6th, 2025. The minutes are attached to the agenda. Any commentary on those minutes from any board members? No. Okay, we can entertain a motion and a second.
I'll motion approval.
I second that.
Okay, so motion from Palos, second from Shinuda. Let's just do a show of hands for approval. Okay, looks like it passed 4-0. Let's go ahead. Is that enough for both of those minutes, Lucas? Or do you want us to individually?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's good. Thank you for announcing the outcome.
Sure. So we need to gavel out of public hearing. So can we get a motion and a second for that? To close public hearing on the BZA.
Close public hearing?
Yeah, so Darren's.
Oh, actually, we don't need to close public hearing since we didn't have any public hearing items, actually.
Okay. Sorry about that. That's my mistake. So we just have to adjourn the BZA. Is that right, Lucas?
Yep, and before we do that, I will quickly note we are expecting one BZA item in August. Part of your role is to review variances from the floodplain management regulations as well. So you will likely be seeing a floodplain item at the beginning of next month.
Okay.
Okay.
And we need a motion and a second to get out of public hearing on the BZA?
No, nothing for the public hearing, but if there's a motion to adjourn, we'll need a motion, second, and a vote.
All right, thank you, Lucas.
I make a motion to adjourn the BZA meeting. Is that right?
Second.
So moved by Palos, second by Sinclair. We'll just do a show of hands. For approval, it's unanimously passed. Okay. Lucas, do I just,
Very good. So,
go ahead.
yep, so what I'm going to do is now I have to call roll again for the Sign Code Board of Appeals. So, so this will be for the second half of our meeting tonight. Board Member Shanuda.
Here.
Board Member Palos.
Here?
Board Member Sinclair. Here. Board Member Watkins.
Here.
Board Member Peterson. Board Member Rankin. Board Member Shalinski. Okay, Chair, we have quorum and we're ready to move on to the next section.
Okay. Do we need to go through agenda item G? Is that the next?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is three parts. It's first is to acknowledge any communications to come before the board. Anything to note there?
None.
Yep, and it's the same as before. Any item or any any communications received before the deadline will be included in tonight's agenda packet.
Okay. Any ex parte communications or abstentions to note?
Nope.
No.
Seeing none. Announce any agenda items that will be deferred.
No deferred items.
Okay. Next agenda item is H, to convene a side code Board of Appeals. I believe we've got presentation.
I'm Plans Examiner with the Building Safety Division with Planning and Development Services. I'm here to present the staff report for the sign code variance. The property is located at 2700 Iowa Street. It is the Runza restaurant. We received a variance application to deviate from the provisions of Section 5-2018D for the restrictions by zoning district for permanent freestanding signs of the Code of the City of Lawrence, Kansas, 2025 edition for the maximum sign height and area for a new monument sign. The request is to allow a 16-foot tall, 72 square foot area permanent freestanding sign located at the property line with no setback, and the property is zoned M3, which is a mixed corridor. The code allows for M3 zoning district 1 monument sign per lot. What is proposed is 1 permanent freestanding sign, which is requested. The number of signs proposed is approvable based on the number of signs allowed by code. The sign size allowed by code is 60 square foot maximum. For each 5 foot of setback from the public right-of-way property line, the maximum sign area may be increased by 6 square feet to a maximum of 72 square feet. For lots 3 or more in acres, additional square footage of 20 square feet is allowed as an alternative to additional square footage of 20 square feet. 1 sign on lots of 3 or more acres is allowed with a maximum area of 40 square feet. This sign area calculated by the sign code section 5-2016B for the proposed sign is 72.84 square feet. The proposed sign is not set back from the from the public right of way. The lot size is approximately 0.6 acres. Based on the setback and location of the sign, the maximum sign area allowed by code is 60 square feet. The proposed area of 72.84 square feet is not approvable based on the maximum square footage allowed by code. For sign height, the code allows a 12-foot high maximum, and for each 5 foot of setback from a public right-of-way property line, height may be increased by 2 feet to a maximum of 16 feet. The height does include the monument base for the total. The proposed sign is 16 feet in height, including the base. The proposed sign is not set back from the public right-of-way. Based on the setback and location of the sign, the maximum sign height allowed by code is 12 feet. The proposed sign height of 16 feet is not approvable based on the maximum height allowed by code. And finally, sign illumination. Internally illuminated signs and externally illuminated signs are allowed. The proposed sign is internally illuminated and is approvable based on sign illumination allowed by code. The criteria for approval of variance and staff analysis. Per section 5-1828, the board may grant variances from any person seeking a sign permit that cannot meet the restrictions or standards of the sign code upon the determination that all of the following findings have been fully met. Number one, at the time a variance is granted by the board shall find that the variance request arises from conditions that are unique to the location in question, which are not ordinarily found in the same zoning district, and that the unique conditions are not caused or created by an action or actions of the property owner or applicant. Staff's analysis is the conditions noted in the request for the variance are not unique to the location in question, in the opinion of staff. The property across Iowa Street on the west side of the street has an almost identical property location as it relates to Iowa Street and the Iowa frontage street. That property, 2701 Iowa Street, installed a 16.67 square foot monument sign set back from the property line approximately 8 feet 3 inches, which is 6 feet in height. The other signs referenced in the application for a variance are listed below with staff's findings. I'm happy to go through those if anyone has any questions, but each one was unique, and they were all set back from the property line, not the Iowa Street frontage, and that's why they had their areas and heights that were allowed by code when a permit was applied for. The currently adopted sign code measures setback distance from the property line or public right-of-way, not the curb of a street. Staff does not find that this condition has been met. Number two, at the time a variance is granted by the board shall find that the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare, including the visual appearance of the area, or injurious to property or improvements in such zoning districts or the neighborhood in which the property is located. An increase of 12 square feet to the sign area and 4 feet to the height of the sign would not negatively impact the visual appearance of the area or negatively impact the commercial neighborhood. Staff finds this condition has been met. At the time a variance is granted by the board shall find that the strict application of the requirements of Article 18, Chapter 5 of the City Code would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships to the owner or applicant, inconsistent with the general purpose and intent of the sign code. Such practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships may include compliance with amended provisions of the sign code that were not in effect at the time a predecessor sign was installed. Strict application of the requirements of Article 20, Chapter 5 of the City Code, in the opinion of staff, will not result in a practical difficulty or hardship. The city-owned public right-of-way is free and clear of buildings or obstructions that would limit visibility to a compliant sign that is 12 feet in height and 60 square feet in area. So in closing, staff analysis determined that the request does not meet all three criteria above for the granting of the variance, and staff recommends denial of the requested variance for the increase in sign area for the permanent internal, I'm sorry, this is a mistype. It should be the permanent freestanding ground sign, not internal ground sign, found in 5-1818D, because all three of the criteria for approval have not been met. The strict application of the sign code regulations would not cause practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships to the applicant. The requested variance would not be detrimental to the public welfare, and conditions are not unique to the location in question. And that is all from the staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Timberly.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions? We can also hear from the applicant and always come back to Timberly.
Just, what's the sign across the street that you were referring to?
It is a Valvoline sign.
Yeah, it's relatively new, too, isn't it?
It is, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You, thinking about that bonus that you get for pulling back away from the public right-of-way. I'm trying to think about the intentions for that. It seems like part of it is that we want to keep signs, we want to encourage people to pull signs back off the right-of-way, and we're willing to allow them to increase their size, in part because they're pulling away and it's harder to see, but also because we don't want to cram the right-of-way with additional commercial signage. Is that fair?
I believe that's the intent of the code, yes.
Okay. And in this case, it seems like there are some constraints. I'll let the applicant maybe do their pitch, and then we can come back to you about some questions. Any other questions for Timberly?
I just have one. The setback, you said it's not necessarily from the curb, but it's from the public right-of-way. So in that, that second, or let's see, what page was it? The one that has the graphic on it, the picture. Is the right-of-way the Iowa frontage street curb? So that's my first question. And then my second question is, would there not be, does the public right-of-way also include that parking lot where the cars are parked? So it's kind of like, I'm just wondering if that land is kind of constrained by having public right-of-way on both sides.
I don't know if I can share this screen now with the packet. Okay, thank you. Yes, great. Okay, so this is the property line where you can see my mouse. This is actually where the public right-of-way is. So the sign code measures the setback as defined in the sign code from the public right-of-way property line. So anything outside of the property line, which is no longer private property, that's considered public right-of-way. So this whole area over here, this is all public right-of-way.
And when
We can't see it with the mouse.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It seems like you're describing what's outside of that red and black line.
That's correct. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
So that is the property line, that is the measuring stick from which that 5 and 10 foot setback is measured.
Per code, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Let's hear from the applicant. Thank you, Timberly.
Yeah, I'm Jim Lyle. I'm with Lumineo Signs. Yeah, our application for variance on this is really based on, I guess, what we feel makes this location unique is the frontage road that separates this property from Iowa Street. You know, Iowa Street is where we're really trying to, gain attention. And this property is unique in the distance that it has to set back because of this frontage road that sits directly in front of them. The other thing, I guess that I looked at is there is a property just to the south of this that also sits on the opposite side of the frontage road. At that location, the frontage road actually is closer to Iowa Street, but they have exactly the same height and square footage of sign that we're asking for at that location. It's a bank.
Am I allowed to ask?
Please.
Okay. Was that one of the banks
Yeah.
in your application, Jim?
Yes, definitely should have been, yes.
Was it the Landmark Bank?
Yes.
Okay. So that is what I found, the original permit for the Landmark Bank at 2710 Iowa. From the permit that we have, it was issued back in 2006. The files do not have a site plan showing any setback. The application lists the sign area as 98 square feet, but the graphic lists the height at 17 feet and the total area of the structure at 119 square feet. So that was definitely under a previous code, not the currently adopted code. There was no site plan showing how far it was set back from the property line, so we have no idea. It was an approved sign by the city of Lawrence, though. We do have a sign permit, and the actual measurements that we have from the file are listed in your agenda packet.
Great.
Okay.
Interesting.
It definitely seemed to be a unique condition along Iowa Street, the distance that this property sets back, from Iowa. And a smaller sign just won't be as visible as the other signs that we're talking about. Valvoline across the street, the distance it is from Iowa, I mean, and I don't have the dimensions in front of me, I know they're in the packet. I mean, it's like we're 60 feet away and the Valvoline sign is 12 feet from the road. You know, it's a big difference.
Thank you, Mr. Lyle. Anything else to add on your presentation? I'm sure there'll be some questions.
Nothing, no, nothing right now.
Okay. Well, we can have some discussion about this. My first question was about, Timberly, it seems like you're confined by the code here. You're not allowed to necessarily apply the right-of-way distance from Iowa Street.
Correct.
Which is clearly the corridor that they're trying to appeal to.
Right.
It also looks like the property itself doesn't really lend itself for them to be able to achieve a 10-foot setback, even if they wanted to.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, on the area, the graphic that I put in, and mine is, I guess you guys is in black and white as well. So I think that there was one, and I don't have the measurements. I don't think that they could achieve the 10 feet. You're correct.
Yeah, I mean, the parking islands essentially, or the landscaping islands, don't
Right.
have space for it without reconfiguring the lot somehow. Jim, is that, do you find that to be accurate too?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And there was a previous sign here that got blown over, and do we have a measurement on how tall that sign would have been? I mean, it looked like it was over 20 feet.
I would guess, I don't have that. Do you have that, Jim?
I do not, because it was down by the time I got involved, but it was over 20 feet.
Right.
It was, yeah.
And one other question I have, Jim, it seems like you've crafted this request to stay within the general confines of allowable sign code, square footage and height with, in other words, it's not a random number that you've picked here on 72 feet and is it 16 feet?
Mm-hmm.
These are the numbers that the code would allow under certain circumstances.
Correct. If we were able to achieve the maximum setback from a property line, those would be the dimensions that would be allowed.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
The only other question, maybe this is for Timberly, you had the red triangles on there, the line of sight. You're just pointing those out. You're not saying whether it's a 12-foot or 16-foot sign that you have any concern over the public being able to see either way. Would that be correct?
Correct. So the sign code has a restriction, and I don't know the section off the top of my head, but no sign. If you have a sign located in a site triangle, I believe the maximum height is 3 feet in height. So if the sign were located in one of those red triangles, it would be limited to 3 feet, I believe, because of the site triangle. People pulling out would not be able to see, 3 feet is the maximum. So the difference between this 12 and the 16 feet would not affect the site triangles at all.
Timberly, do you happen to know if Valvoline requested a variance on their sign?
They did not. I do know they did not.
Question. Is this a replacement sign for one that blew over?
Correct.
How long ago did it blow over?
I believe I was contacted this spring by a sign contractor asking about replacing the existing non-conforming pole sign that blew over in a storm, a wind event. So we looked at the code at that time, and there is a section about non-conforming signs. So pole signs are prohibited now in the city of Lawrence.
Okay.
It's been that way, I think, since the 2003 sign code.
Okay.
But that sign would not have been approvable these days.
Okay.
With the currently adopted sign code. So it's a legal non-conforming sign. When it blew over, there is a section for, it's 5-2023 in the sign code that says any non-conforming sign that is damaged by fire, explosion, collision, casualty, or other act of God by more than 50% of its present value shall not be repaired or replaced. Any nonconforming sign that topples because its supports have been broken, have buckled, or are exhausted shall be considered to be damaged by more than 50% of its present value. So because it had toppled, they couldn't replace it under the sign code, so they have to replace it with a compliant monument style sign.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, I really sympathize with the applicant here. I mean, I think Timberly's done a fine job with her report. I think the code can't always contemplate all the unique circumstances, but in this case, my intuition says, this property has a few.
Chair, sorry, do you
Yep.
mind, before we kind of move into more substantive discussion, would you quickly open for public comment?
Oh, yeah.
And then if there's nothing, close and go back to discussion.
Okay, do we need a motion for that? Or do we just open?
No motion to open, just motion to close.
Okay, so let's hear some public comment, if there is any.
If there's none, Becky, in the room, I'm not seeing any on Zoom with the hands raised.
There is none in the room.
All right,
Okay, thank you, Chair.
you bet. And so motion to close that?
I'll motion
Yes,
it.
motion, please.
Okay.
I second
So
to close.
Palos moved and Shanuda seconded. Let's just have a show of hands if you want to close public comment. Okay, so we're closed on public comment.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for reminding me. Well, I was going to just lead off by saying that, I think there are some unique things about this property. I think the fact that they couldn't comply with the setback requirement, even if they wanted to, because of the shape of their landscaping islands, creates some uniqueness. I think it's also pretty unique that they're off of Iowa, and that really is the corridor they need to appeal to. I like that they've crafted their application to not build a sign that's 100 square feet. I like that it's, tries to comply with just the next level up. Again, I sympathize with Timberly and her ability, or her requirements to follow the code, but I think that uniqueness has been met. Staff believes that it's not material detrimental to the public welfare, so that second element theoretically is met in the staff report. And the practical difficulty, I think, is stated in the applicant's application. I mean, I think they've seen sales drop since their sign went down. They have some data there. But the practical difficulty of being in a unique property, being faced out onto 27th Street rather than Iowa, being further away, it makes some sense to me.
Yeah, Pat, I would agree with that. Just the uniqueness that kind of how I was describing before. The frontage road really starts to curve toward, I guess, northeast in toward their property, and so that I think that makes that little piece unique as well. And they have the parking lot on the other side, so they are stuck. I mean, if they had another 10 feet of property there that they could deal with, I'm sure they would put the sign right there, but. Based on your comments and the comments that we heard, I think this is unique enough to, I would be in support of the sign, the size and the square foot that they had requested.
Well, I'm going to offer a different notion. And one of the things that I think that's, excuse me, distinctive about the Runza property, which has been very well maintained. They've just upgraded the building. I'm not a frequent shopper there, but I've had the Runza, and I like the ice cream. But the building itself is quite a sign in and of itself. And I don't see a hardship here. I think the regulations are what they are. And I think there may be some unique circumstances, but I fail to find hardship sufficient for me to say that I would vote for it. So that's where I'm coming from.
I could go either way. I mean, I understand the lot is different, and it's not their fault. But Dean, I see your point. Everybody knows Runza, and
Yeah.
you could see it from Iowa Street without a sign. So
Jim, are you able to Do you happen to know the size of their sign on the building?
I don't have the square footage of the sign on the building, but we do have Doug here. You know, I think to say that it's not a hardship and that the building is a sign, he has seen significant sales drop, and he was contacted by corporate to get a sign back up there because he's, you know, they've seen the difference. So what's on the building is not doing what his previous sign was.
But he's probably seeing hardship right now because he has no sign, right? Because the sign is gone, it's destroyed. So we can't just say that losing the sign, the hardship is happening not because of the size of the sign, but there is absolutely no sign now. So if he was to put a smaller sign, then maybe the hardship will go away. Am I correct? There is no sign right now.
Correct.
So I could see why the hardship exists, but if you put one less than the 16 foot, that's by the requirements, there might not be a hardship. Probably helps that. Do we?
Well, I think you make an important distinction. I mean, the fact that, I mean, I think what the applicant is saying that is that we need a sign for sure,
Yeah,
but we'd
sure.
like to have a sign that is visible from Iowa.
Is there not a sign on the building
No.
right now?
A wall sign.
Wall sign.
Yes,
Yeah,
no
there's a
ground
sign.
sign, correct.
No
And
grounds.
again, I reiterate, the building itself is a sign. I mean, that's their standard. I know there's people that have probably never been to Runza, but for
Yeah.
the most part, I think it's very clear, as you drive by, that's Runza, whether there is even a sign on it.
You know, I think,
I was gonna say, is the decision to allow a 16-foot or the 12-foot, is that really what we're, in the 60 versus the 72, right? We're talking about the additional setback would have granted them this, the 72 and the 16.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm supposed to speak. I'm the owner of Runza, Doug. But just want to give you guys a little bit of input. I'm new to all this stuff. But when we had our taller sign, it was 32 feet tall before it fell. Before we replaced the fascia on that, we weren't allowed to do any other work per code. Before that happened, our sales were stagnant. Once we put the new fascia on it and stuff, our sales did increase probably up to 7.5% to 8%. So my only concern about a smaller sign is the fact of, with Iowa being so far away from our building, being set further down, I'm just afraid that a smaller sign is not going to be as effective as a 16-foot, and they won't see it as they're driving by. So, I mean, that's my only concern about having it smaller. I hope that makes sense what I just said, but I just know that when it fell, our sales slowly started to drop. And I would say our sales didn't drop just because of the sign, but I would say it's probably a 7 to 8% decrease in sales because of the sign. And with it being smaller, I just don't think we're getting the effectiveness that we need to attract people from driving by on Iowa. So that's just my 2 cents I wanted to throw out there.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I think, you know, the code does make distinctions about monument signs and wall signs, and you're entitled to both. I mean, one of the things that I think it's territory that we don't necessarily need to go too deep in, but a lot of the consumers on South Iowa aren't necessarily always familiar with what's going on in South Iowa. I see a lot of visitors. It is a big commercial district. I do like that going down 27th Street, there isn't staff seems to make the opinion, and I agree that there isn't a material hardship to the rest of the neighborhood. But to me, a monument sign is part of the commercial fabric of that area. And it seems like it's going to come in one way or the other, regardless of what they already have on the wall. So I think it's, I would hate to make too many assumptions about what the monument sign might mean for the business. But I like that they've invested in keeping up their building. I like that they take good care of the property. It does look good. I think it's noteworthy that they had a huge sign before, and they were able to probably benefit from that. Those are all things that sort of cross my mind when I'm seeing this application.
Well, my response to that is that this isn't saying they can't have a sign. This is just simply saying you need to comply with the regulations. I don't see how
Sure.
a smaller sign is going to, 2 feet shorter or 4 feet shorter is going to make, that's just a personal opinion.
Sure.
I don't think 4 feet is going to make that much difference, frankly, but again, I don't see a hardship here on this, given the building. The building was closed for how many months were you closed for repair?
2 months.
2 months? Okay. It seemed longer because I wanted to get ice cream there.
It seemed a lot longer than 2 months.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, if there's not any more commentary, I think we could entertain a vote. Any other commentary or questions from the rest of the board?
Aye,
This is Jim with Lumineo. I may just throw one last thought.
please.
I mean, and the way that I've looked at this, and the reason we've applied for kind of the maximum height and square footage, if they had all the setback, is that really if any other business down Iowa were to put a sign up at the distance we're talking about from Iowa Street, if any of them were even able to do that, because they're all closer to the street, they would all be allowed this sign. So that's really why we're asking for the maximum height that would be allowed for this property and also the maximum square footage.
So it sounds like your perspective is that's part of the uniqueness of this property is that you have a huge amount of right-of-way between Iowa and the property.
Correct.
And I just Googled map, and they are a little bit set back compared to the bank and O'Reilly and the auto parts. Thank you. So, who had that last picture?
I did.
Okay, can you bring that back up, please, for a second? Thank you. See, I still think, oh, no, that picture with the road, the map, not that one, the other Google map. Yeah.
I'm actually on your computer.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I have that. If you look at it, I still think, looking at the street, you could see the sign.
So what staff looked at was directly across the street was the Valvoline sign, and both of the frontages make that kind of,
Can you go to the Valvoline, the other side on,
You can see
if
it.
it does have a curve up there? Keep going, opposite way, the opposite way.
No, this is the Valvoline sign over here.
Yeah, they come across, because that used to be US Bank right next to it. So it curves too.
But it's not, maybe, it's not quite as dramatic. I think what I would say about this Valvoline sign is we've got different businesses here, but we've also got different conditions. Valvoline sign is not before us today. I think I would support, a similar perspective for them if they requested it, but
Right.
it's not before us. This is all sort of.
I'm sorry, but one other thing I was going to say about the Valvoline sign is that those businesses also are almost level with Iowa Street, and we sit actually lower at an elevation than what Iowa Street is, and that's why, another reason why we're looking for that extra height.
Got you. For me, I think when we make the roll call, probably, either way, I think I see their point and I see Timberley's point. Code is code. It's a uniqueness of the property. They didn't sign up for that property to be in that unique category. But I'm also not, with no sign, I can see why they don't have sales. So, 4 foot, does it make a big difference? Does it make a big difference if I'm looking for something, I don't look for a sign if I'm going to go hey, I want to eat this. I don't know.
I don't think they would request it if they didn't.
Yeah,
think it
no,
made a
I
difference.
understand.
But, yeah, I mean, I'm on this screen, and Kurt, you could share this. This is sort of extrajudicial, but I think this is, you can see a bit of the trajectory of the roadway down to Runza. So that commentary that it's lower than the roadway is
I agree.
something that and from my perspective, I think Timberley's confined by the code. I think
Yeah.
she has to make a strict reading, and that's why we
got it.
have a Board of Zoning Appeals.
I got it. No, I
We have
understand.
those three elements to meet. But it's hard for me, I mean, I'm not in this sign world as often, and we don't get a great deal of opportunities to see it, but I have seen the power of advertising and marketing doesn't impact everybody the same way. I go out to South Iowa, I know pretty much where I'm going, I know what I want. If I am out there in a new place and I'm looking for a place to eat or refreshment or a quick bite, I need to be directed. And the power of monument signs, the power of wall signs, they're all instructive for a great deal of consumers in this area. I think probably not going to be effective with us, but the people that they're appealing to is what we need to kind of weigh here. And I think we do have to take for granted, or not for granted, but we have to take seriously the commentary from the applicant that they absolutely need it to keep their sales up. I think it's easy to say that, you know, smaller monument sign might work for them. I think there's probably some use of a smaller sign. I think it would be valuable, better than no sign, but the question at hand is, should they be able to go up 4 feet and 12 feet in size? So,
Yep. I mean, I'm not, I appreciate everybody's comments and considerations. I'm still where I was at the beginning. I think the property is unique. I think the street as it curves around is unique into their property. There must be some magic in 12 versus 16, or we would say, why not 8 foot, you know? So I think, you know, based upon those, I don't know exactly how to do this, but I'd like to make the motion to approve the request, and help me through the language here, Luke, if you could, to approve the sign variance request. And I need to read the thing, right?
Yes, so I'd recommend if the motion is to approve, you can basically kind of read the little blurb
Yeah.
and just switch
Yeah, so I would move to approve the variance request BZA 25-0005 for the increase in sign area and height for the permanent freestanding sign found in code section 5-2018, section D, or subset E.
I'm okay seconding that. Am I allowed to do that as chair, Luke? Is that a?
Sure.
Okay. We'll bring it to a vote. Luke, do you want to call the roll?
Yes, thank you. So for a motion to approve, Board Member Watkins,
Aye.
Board Member Sinkler,
Aye.
Board Member Palos,
Nay?
Board Member Shanuda.
Aye.
Motion to approve carries.
Thank you to the applicant for being here and making an application. Thank you for Timberley. Do we have any miscellaneous items to address here, Lucas?
To my knowledge, there are no miscellaneous sign code Board of Appeals items.
Okay. If there's anything else, board members make it known. Otherwise, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Sinclair, seconded by Shanuda. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Lucas.
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th, y'all.
Same to you all.